Long before you ever opened your mouth, your eyes had already told the world who you are. They spoke a language you didn't even understand yourself. And the most terrifying part? You weren't listening. You've probably spent your whole life thinking your eye color is just an aesthetic, a minor detail, a simple roll of the genetic dice. But Carl Jung saw it completely differently. He believed your eye color wasn't just some biological feature. He saw it as a signature, a psychic imprint, a code that your soul chose long before it ever entered this world. Because your eye color isn't just revealing who you are right now, it's exposing who you were always meant to become. And if you haven't decoded that message by now, there's a good chance you're already living someone else's life. That low-level hum of unease you feel, that subtle sense of disconnection, the feeling that something important is missing but you just can't put your finger on it. It's not just in your head. It's your soul watching you forget what it came here to do. All this time, your eyes have been trying to remind you, not with words, but with their color. And for most people, that color has been betraying them since the day they were born. In the next few minutes, you are going to discover why your eye color is so much more than just a feature. It's a forgotten spiritual blueprint that Carl Jung believed reveals your soul's deepest mission. We are going to break down the archetypal meanings behind each color and explore the reason why most people are unknowingly living in complete opposition to the person they were designed to be. So, if you've ever felt like you were meant for something more but could never quite explain what, make sure you stay with me until the very end. And if this already feels like a message your soul's been waiting to hear, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Because this channel isn't about surface-level psychology. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to forget. Carl Jung wasn't just a psychologist. He was a mapmaker of the unseen world. While most of his peers were busy dissecting behavior on the surface, Jung was diving deep into what he called the collective unconscious. He saw it as a hidden reservoir of symbols, instincts, and mythic patterns that shape all of us from the inside out. He believed we aren't born as blank slates. We arrive with these psychic blueprints, these inherited designs that whisper instructions just beneath our awareness. He called these blueprints archetypes, which are universal patterns of human nature. You have the caretaker, the warrior, the seer, the wanderer. They're not just personalities. They are primordial forces, deep programs embedded in our psychology that influence how we love, how we suffer, how we make choices, and how we break. But there's something Jung hinted at that even most of his followers missed. These archetypes aren't just mental or emotional. They're embodied, woven right into the very biology we carry. And our eye color, the very first feature people notice when they look at you, may be one of the clearest reflections of your dominant archetype. You see, Jung believed that the body and the soul are mirrors of each other, that our physical traits can carry symbolic meaning that echoes the internal architecture of our psyche. In other words, your eye color isn't just pigment. It's a pattern, a visual signature of the archetypal force your soul was designed to express. And once you understand the deeper meaning behind your eye color, you'll start to see why your life has unfolded the way it has. Why certain struggles always feel so familiar. Why certain people trigger you. And why your path, no matter how chaotic it's been, may have been pointing you toward this exact moment all along. Because when the external world reflects the internal one, your eyes are not just looking out at the world. They are broadcasting who you were always meant to be. Modern science would have you believe your eye color is nothing more than a biological glitch, a predictable result of melanin distribution, genetic probability, and inherited traits passed down like numbers in a code. And while that's true on the surface, it isn't the whole truth. Because what science often calls random, ancient wisdom called destiny. Carl Jung warned us about this very thing, the danger of divorcing the soul from the body, of reducing our very being to chemicals and chance while ignoring the language of symbolism written into our form. A color, in Jung's view, was never just pigment. It was a reflection, a manifestation of what lies beneath, the invisible forces that shape our visible life. And this wasn't just Jung's speculation. Across cultures, continents, and centuries, the same truth kept appearing. The Egyptian priests believed different eye colors carried spiritual signatures, clues to one's sacred function in society. The Celtic Druids were said to be able to read a soul's life path just by the shade and pattern of the iris. Among indigenous shamans, the eyes were never merely physical. They were soul markers. Each color symbolized a role, a lesson, a gift. Even today, in remote tribes untouched by modern science, elders still look into the eyes of newborns, not to admire them, but to interpret them. They don't ask, "What color are her eyes?" They ask, "What did she come here to do?" And maybe that's the question we've all forgotten to ask ourselves. What if your eye color was chosen? Not by your parents, not by your DNA, but by your soul as a signal, a marker, a kind of psychic fingerprint carved into your biology to guide your mission here. You weren't given that color by accident. You selected it because it held the frequency of the archetype you came here to embody. And the longer you ignore it, the further you drift from the version of yourself that was always waiting to awaken. The world might teach you to overlook your eye color, but your soul never will, because it's not just a feature. It's a message, and it's time you remembered how to read it. Let's start with brown eyes, the earth keepers of the collective. In a world that's obsessed with what's rare, we often forget the value of what's essential. And no eye color is more misunderstood, more dismissed, than brown. You've heard the message your whole life. Brown eyes are common, ordinary, nothing special. But that is the lie. And it's a lie that has kept millions of people disconnected from their deepest spiritual mission. Because if you have brown eyes, you were not born to be flashy. You were born to hold the ground beneath the chaos. Brown-eyed souls are what Carl Jung would have called the earth keepers, the archetypes of stability, ancestral wisdom, and deep sacred presence. Your mission is not loud. It's foundational. You are the one others unconsciously seek out when they are falling apart. The one who listens when no one else does. The one whose energy just makes people feel like, for once, they are safe. And that is not by accident. The deeper melanin in brown eyes connects you to what Jung called the primordial unconscious, the oldest, most stable layer of our collective psyche. It means you carry a kind of ancient emotional memory, a wisdom that can't be taught, but only inherited through your soul lineage. That's why strangers open up to you, why children gravitate toward you, why people feel calm, even healed, just by being near you. You are quite literally the emotional architecture of every community you touch. But with that grounding energy comes a very heavy burden. Because being the foundation means you often get stepped on. Brown-eyed souls frequently fall into overgiving, emotional exhaustion, and caretaker burnout. They suppress their own needs for the sake of others. They become everyone's safe place and forget to create one for themselves. And if you've ever felt tired for no reason, if you've ever wondered why people lean on you but rarely ask how you are doing, this is why. Your archetype is designed to stabilize the storm. But no one ever taught you how to rebuild yourself after each wave. Ancient cultures understood this sacred burden. In many indigenous traditions, brown eyes were considered sacred marks of the wisdom keepers. Egyptian priests called them the eyes of the earth. Celtic seers believed brown-eyed children carried the soul of their oldest ancestors. Shamans viewed them as the root of the tribe's survival. Today, psychology actually confirms what ancient intuition already knew. Studies show that brown-eyed individuals score higher on empathy, emotional intelligence, and wisdom orientation. They are more likely to become counselors, teachers, healers, and protectors. Not because it's easy, but because it's in their nature. But here is what most brown-eyed souls must learn. Your mission is not to fix everyone else. Your mission is to model what it looks like to be rooted in wisdom without disappearing into everyone else's needs. You are here to be both grounded and growing. Not just the safe place others run to, but the living proof that it's possible to hold space for others while still rising into your own highest self. So, if you've spent your life feeling like everyone's emotional backbone, if you've been praised for your strength but secretly longed for rest, know this. Your strength was never about endurance. It was about energy alignment. You are not here to be depleted. You are here to be a living bridge between the material and the spiritual, the root system that allows others to grow. Your brown eyes are not common. They are sacred, and your soul didn't choose them by chance. It chose them because it knew the world would need someone like you to hold what no one else could. Now, let's talk about blue eyes, the truth seers, and human lie detectors. Some eyes don't just look, they see. And if you have blue eyes, you have probably felt it your entire life. People either lean in or they pull away, because there's something about your gaze that just cuts through everything. Blue-eyed souls are the truth seers, the archetypes of clarity, perception, and pattern recognition. Jung believed that certain souls are born with an ability to perceive beyond the veil, to pierce illusions, to detect contradictions, and to recognize when something just doesn't quite add up. And in blue-eyed individuals, this archetype expresses itself through a kind of visual intensity. It's not the color itself, it's what the color allows. The low melanin in blue irises reflects light in a way that enhances visual clarity and neurological pattern detection. Which means you don't just see people, you read them. You track their body language, their tone, their micro-expressions, often without even realizing you're doing it. You sense when someone is lying. You pick up on the empty space between their words. And it's not just information, it's a deep intuition. You were born to be a mirror to truth, not just for others, but for the world itself. In many shamanic traditions, blue eyes were considered signs of visionaries, souls who could see through this world and into the next. The Norse believed blue-eyed seers could detect truths hidden by spirits. Celtic mystics said that blue-eyed children could see through the veil before they could even speak. But here's the paradox. The gift of sight is often very isolating. When you can sense people's true motives, even when they're smiling. When you feel the dissonance between someone's words and their energy, you start to build walls. You stop trusting what people say because you've already seen what they're hiding. And that leads to a different kind of suffering. Not the pain of being hurt, but the pain of being constantly aware. Many blue-eyed souls describe feeling emotionally alone, even in relationships. Because when you see through masks, it's really hard to pretend. It's hard to stay in conversations that feel hollow. It's hard to play the social game when you've already sensed the truth that lies just beneath it. But that loneliness is not a flaw. It's the byproduct of your mission. You're not here to expose people. You are here to hold space for authenticity. Your energy makes others feel like they can't hide. That's not intimidation. That's an invitation. You are a walking reminder that truth is possible and that it's necessary. Psychology backs this up. Blue-eyed individuals show higher tendencies toward analytical thinking, deception detection, and authenticity-seeking behavior. They are more likely to be drawn to careers that involve truth work like psychology, investigations, coaching, or journalism. And yet their soul's real mission goes even deeper. It's to be a presence that calls truth into the room, not by force, but by simply existing. If you've ever made someone open up without meaning to, if you've ever made people nervous or feel deeply seen just by looking at them, this is your archetype at work. But don't let the gift turn into a wound. You were not meant to carry the burden of truth all alone. Your purpose is not to judge, but to awaken, to reflect the masks people wear until they finally feel safe enough to take them off. And to live your life in such a radically honest way that it gives others permission to stop pretending. Your blue eyes are not just beautiful. They are designed to see, to remember, to reveal. And the world has never needed your vision more than it does right now. Next, green eyes, the catalysts of evolution. There's a reason green eyes are so rare. It's not because they are genetically uncommon, but because the souls who wear them are not here to fit in. They are here to disrupt, to transform, to catalyze. In Jungian terms, green-eyed individuals embody the archetype of the threshold guardian, the one who stands between what is and what's about to become. You exist in the space between categories, between logic and intuition, between structure and flow, between the past and the future. And because of that, your presence alone can unsettle everything around you. You are a psychic earthquake, a soul encoded to shake people awake. And they feel it even when they can't explain it. Relationships with you tend to be intense, short-lived, and electric, because green-eyed souls carry liminal energy. This is the energy of doors opening, masks falling, lives unraveling so they can be rebuilt. People meet you and things in their life begin to change. They leave jobs, they end relationships, they start spiritual awakenings they were not prepared for. And then they often disappear. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your archetypal energy triggered a transformation they were not ready to finish. This is the curse of the catalyst. You change lives you don't get to stay in. Jung described these souls as agents of individuation, those who activate others to begin the journey toward their true self. In Celtic mythology, green eyes were signs of shapeshifters, beings who could mirror what others needed to evolve. In Egyptian temples, green-eyed initiates were trained as rebirth guides, trusted to carry souls through the sacred chaos of death and recreation. And in countless indigenous traditions, green eyes were seen as marks of the bridge walker, the ones who could walk between the worlds and return with insight. Psychologically, green-eyed individuals score high in adaptability, creative disruption, and transformation intelligence. This means you don't just go through change, you generate it. You are the one who asks the question that cracks someone's entire belief system. The one who introduces the idea that becomes a turning point. The one whose presence shifts the energy of a room without even saying a word. And yes, it can be exhausting, because being the one who triggers change in others doesn't always leave space to understand your own. You may struggle with feeling like you don't belong, like you're too much for some people, too mystical for the rational world, too grounded for the spiritual one. But that dissonance is not dysfunction. It's your design. You are not meant to fit in. You are meant to shift what people fit into. And your green eyes, they are the mark of a soul on assignment. If you have ever noticed your presence accelerating someone's growth, if people have told you they changed because of you but couldn't stay close afterward, that is not a rejection. That's the ripple effect of your archetype doing its work. Your role is not to be everyone's constant, but to be their spark. The moment that opens the door, even if you don't walk through it with them. But here is the most important part. Don't forget to be that catalyst for yourself. You are not just here to shatter the illusions of others. You are here to keep breaking your own, to keep evolving, keep shape-shifting, keep moving toward the highest version of you. Your green eyes are not just rare. They are revolutionary. And the more you embody your mission, the more you give others permission to become. You are the threshold, and the world needs you not to hold the door, but to kick it wide open. And that brings us to hazel eyes, the shapeshifters of consciousness. Hazel eyes don't settle. They shift, not just in color, but in meaning, in presence, in energy. And if you have hazel eyes, you have likely spent your life feeling unfixed, fluid, and in between. That's not confusion. It's your power. Jung would have called you a psychic mirror, a rare archetype built for emotional adaptability, identity blending, and transformation by reflection. Hazel-eyed souls are the shapeshifters of consciousness. You become what the moment needs, who the person in front of you needs, sometimes even who they're afraid to admit they are. That's why people say you help them see themselves. Your presence unlocks insight in others, not by force, but by resonance. You adapt. You shift your tone, your language, your energy, until the person across from you begins to awaken to something within themselves. But this is not manipulation. It's intuition. It's empathy at the very highest level. Hazel-eyed individuals carry the archetype of fluid mirrors, beings who reflect back potential. You often find yourself playing different roles in different rooms. A counselor in one moment, a challenger in the next, a comedian, a healer, a seer. And you might wonder, who am I when no one's looking? That is the shadow side of your gift. The risk of becoming everyone's mirror, but losing sight of your own reflection. Because when you're wired to shift, the boundary between adaptation and self-erasure gets very thin. You may struggle with feeling undefined, unanchored, like you are real in every role you play, but unsure which one is actually you. Ancient cultures revered this energy. In Greek mythology, hazel eyes were marks of divine messengers, those who could move between gods and mortals, adapting to any realm. The Celtic Druids saw hazel-eyed souls as keepers of the world tree, connecting all levels of existence, all dimensions of truth. Indigenous shamans believed hazel eyes signaled natural mediums, people able to channel the unspoken, the invisible, the in-between. Modern psychology backs it up. Hazel-eyed individuals often score high on emotional intelligence, social adaptability, and what researchers call potential recognition, the ability to perceive the dormant gifts in other people. And while the world praises this flexibility, it rarely teaches you how to protect it. You have likely been told you're too sensitive or too changeable. But what if your fluidity isn't a flaw? What if it's evolution in motion? Your soul chose hazel eyes not to blend in, but to become a living mirror for those who have forgotten how to see themselves. If you have ever had someone tell you, "I never realized that until I talked to you. You helped me see who I really am," that's not a coincidence. That's your archetype in action. But here's what you need to remember. You were not born to be what others need. You were born to be who you are while reflecting what's possible in them. Your mission is not to disappear inside someone else's story. It's to stay centered in your own while being fluid enough to guide others back to theirs. You're not a shapeshifter because you are lost. You're a shapeshifter because you are limitless. Your hazel eyes are more than beautiful. They are multidimensional codes designed to navigate complexity, fluid identity, and psychic resonance. And the world needs that now more than ever. Because in a time when most people have forgotten who they are, you are the one who reminds them. Not with instruction, not with pressure, but by simply being the mirror that doesn't distort, but just reflects. Most people will never live the life they were designed for. Not because they aren't capable, but because they've been taught to resist who they really are. From the moment you opened your eyes, the world began to shape you. Not to become yourself, but to abandon yourself. You were rewarded for fitting in, for being agreeable, predictable, easy to label. And slowly, without even noticing, you began to betray the very thing your eyes were trying to express. You began to wear masks. Masks that hid your truth. The brown-eyed soul who was born to anchor others was told to stop being so soft. The blue-eyed truth seer was told to tone it down, to stop being so intense. The green-eyed catalyst was told to stabilize, to stop being too much. And the hazel mirror was told to pick a side, to define themselves, to commit to a single identity. One by one, these souls silenced the parts of themselves that made them powerful and started performing for a society that rewarded compliance over authenticity. But there's a cost to that kind of betrayal, and it always shows up in the same ways. Depression, burnout, emptiness, that heavy, quiet grief of living every day in a version of yourself that your soul doesn't even recognize. Of waking up with a life that looks fine from the outside but feels completely hollow on the inside. This is what happens when we fight our design. When we treat our archetype like a flaw to be fixed instead of a mission to be fulfilled. But here is the truth. Your soul didn't make a mistake. Your energy, your nature, your essence. It was all on purpose. The tragedy is never in who you are. The tragedy is in who you were told you had to become instead. Knowing your archetype is not the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. Because awareness without alignment still leads to misalignment. So here's your practice for the next 7 days. A simple but powerful way to reconnect with who you were always meant to be. Every evening, I want you to take 5 minutes to reflect on 2 things. First, ask yourself, when did I feel most like myself today? What was I doing? Who was I with? What kind of energy was I embodying? These are your moments of alignment. These are where your archetype was allowed to express itself freely, where your soul just exhaled and said, "Yes, this is me." Second, ask yourself, when did I feel disconnected, drained, or out of place? What role was I playing? What was I trying to prove, hide, or suppress? These are your moments of resistance, when you stepped out of your blueprint and into someone else's. This isn't about judgment. It's about recognition. The goal isn't to overhaul your entire life overnight. The goal is to start noticing the patterns. Because the more you pay attention to what feels true versus what feels false, the more your path will begin to adjust naturally, intuitively, and powerfully. You'll start choosing environments that nourish your nature, relationships that reflect your real energy, and work that activates your core archetype instead of suppressing it. This is what embodiment looks like. Not pretending, not performing, but becoming. Becoming the person your soul chose to be before the world taught you to forget. Because your eye color didn't just describe you. It assigned you. And now it's time to remember the assignment. Before your first word, before your first memory, before the world told you who to be, your soul made a choice. And that choice was written in your eyes. Your eye color was the first thing the universe designed with intention. Not for beauty, not for vanity, but for meaning. It wasn't random. It was not a decoration. It was a message, a signal to the world and to you of the role you came here to play. And every time you looked in the mirror but didn't understand what you were seeing, every time you felt disconnected, misaligned, or off track, it was your soul whispering, remember who you are. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're simply out of sync with your design. But now you know the code. And more importantly, you know how to live it. So don't go back to forgetting. Don't return to sleep. Start aligning. Start embodying. Start becoming the version of yourself your eyes were always pointing toward. And if this message hit you in that quiet place you rarely let anyone see, drop a comment below with your eye color. Let's see how many brown-eyed earthkeepers, blue-eyed truth-seers, green-eyed catalysts, and hazel-eyed mirrors are watching from around the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially if your soul felt recognized today, because your eyes don't just see the world, they reveal your place within it.